You see that bite? Just like 100 miles an hour. Talk about swim jig fishing and my heart rate goes up. It's a great way to catch big ones. It's a great way to get a lot of bites, but the reason I like it most is it's kind of like a spinnerbait. You can control the depth. You know, if I'm fishing vegetation, it doesn't matter what it is. You know, I can fish it up high, almost like a frog, or I can go down 2 foot. This a lot of times in vegetation is how I start practice, just because I can cover a lot of water. You know, the water's pretty clear. If it was dirtier, it'd probably be a spinnerbait, but this is, you know, it's really clear and I want to move the bait fast, and it's just the ability to be able to cover water and get bites. Kind of learn where they're at and still catch fish. But it's just, you know, the bites on it is just the slack line bite. That's what hooks you. And the visual, a lot of them will be visual. You'll see them come, you know, if you're close to the surface, you'll see them come up high. But, you know, this is kind of the 4-wheel drive of fishing lures. I can throw it pretty much anywhere. You can look here, we got some hydrilla that's under the water. You got reeds up there. It really doesn't matter. Once I use this bait, I can figure out what they're keying on for the day, and then, you know, I may flip or do something, or I may just keep throwing this. But it's kind of like a finesse, you know, spinnerbait, swim jig, bladed jig, they're all cousins. You know, it's all different conditions, and the swim jig is the finesse of all of those. You know, if you're throwing a spinnerbait and you're catching them and the water clears up and it's hard to get a bite, it's probably a good idea to go to a swim jig. Same way with vibrating jig. You know, even if you're fishing clear water with that, you know, you stop getting bites, you can go to, it's hard for them to turn down a swim jig just because it looks so natural. I mean, he stroked it. This fish is probably up there on that high spot, guarding a bed. You know, that's one thing about a swim jig. It kind of, you know, their biggest predator whenever they're spawning is a perch. And I mean, if they're spawning, you know, you got the big females that's swimming around. Just a good bait for whenever, I mean, it's a good bait year round, but it's really good when they're spawning. You know, whenever you're throwing this, you know, if you really pay attention to the bites, it'll lean you towards another bait, like that bite right there when I come across that grass. I actually swam it up really high, and that's when he got it. You know, so automatically I'm thinking, you know, the next bait may be a frog or, you know, a buzz bait, something up high. He's mean. Starting to see a lot of beds now. You can see one right there underneath the boat. Now these are just run-of-the-mill males. Probably up there getting the bed ready. We got a full moon coming And that's one thing, you know, I won an elite event once swimming a jig. There's something about that moon and a jig that go together. And it doesn't have to just be, you know, around the spawn. It can be in the wintertime. I've caught a lot of them. It's just like these fish. The crawdads, I think, do something. Perch. You know, a lot of guys, I think, kind of question or struggle getting bit on a swim jig. And it's just like, it's the same places you would throw, you know, a swim bait or a spinner bait or something like that. And, you know, you'll see sometimes I'm just reeling it. If I'm reeling it, you know, I'm trying to get the bait a little bit deeper. And then you'll see times, you know, that rod flaring. That's probably, I think, that I'm around somewhere that's high probability or it's shallower. You know, if I'm just with braid, if I'm just pumping that rod a little bit, that jig is just bouncing in the water, and a lot of times that'll trigger. I don't like to do it the whole cast because they're seeing the same thing. I want to reel it, and then when it gets close to where I think I'm going to get a bite, then I'll go to pump it, because if they're following it, a lot of times that'll make them bite. You know, the trailer I'm using today is just this is a Booyah Mobster 1/2 ounce and a crawl chunk. And what I like about the crawl chunk is there's two sizes. You know, if I want to get deeper, I'll go with the smaller one. If I want to stay up shallow, I'll go with the bigger legs. But as long as my skirt is trimmed above those legs, it doesn't take a lot of motion on the jig to keep those pinchers a moving. But really, I mean, those two trailers, and you know, I'll use a Christie critter if I really want to float the bait because it has a lot of plastic. And then basically 3 colors. I mean, I use a white one around the shad spawn, and then a black and blue like this. It's got a little brown mixed in it, but black and blue, and then just a run-of-the-mill green pumpkin. It's really the only colors I think you need. As soon as it landed, he just smoked it. There's a female finally, right on the top of the head. You know, it's one of those deals. I'm going down through here, and there's some, you know, I can just look and I can see beds, but not all beds have fish on them. I mean, a lot of these are probably old, you know, looking for some new fish showing up, but you know, it's 2 or 3 foot deep, and I'm just reeling it over, and what I'm trying to do is just locate a school of fish, and so far I haven't, but it's the easiest way. Like, I can move real quick, just throw the jig, and then you can always, you know, once we locate a wad of them, you know, we can come back through with the jig, or we can come back through and, you know, flip these beds, do whatever we need to. And you know, I got 2 colors laid out on the boat right now, and I'm just alternating. You know, if we're over there in the wind, it's kind of dirty a little bit, so I'll use the black and blue, and then over here where we're kind of out of the wind, water's pretty clear, so oh dang, I just had another bite. The water's pretty clear, so I'm just using green pumpkin. I missed him again. Literally missed one and another one got it. You know, the water's pretty clear, so I'm moving the bait pretty fast. You don't want them to get a good look at it. You know, if we were on the Arkansas River or somewhere like that, you know, I would hold my rod up and move it a lot slower, but I mean, I want to move it. And you'll know, like, it's not a, you know, a thump or anything like that. They literally just cut the line. Getting in a little wad of them, I think. You know, a lot of questions I get is what line, what setup. This is a 7/4. You can see the tip is really soft. I'm using braid. So I want, when I'm swimming that thing, I want them to be able to get it before they feel me. There's 3 setups that I use. Like down here in the south where, you know, the chances of catching a 10-pounder are legit. I want to use braid. You know, you get them through the grass and stuff like that. And then, you know, if I'm short swimming a jig, like flipping stick up high, I'll use 4-carbon. And honestly, I'm not using it today, but a lot of times I'll use like a 25-pound leader, you know, like 3 foot, just to keep that braid, you know, from them seeing it. And it kind of rolls over wood and stuff a little bit better than just braid does. So, but I'd say casting it down here, it's 95% just braid. You see that bite? Just like 100 miles an hour. I'm starting to figure it out.
That's a big one. Good to get the one.
Smoked it. It's amazing how like the bait's on top of the water for a millisecond and they can get it all the way in their mouth. Now this is a 1/2 ounce booyah mobster and it's only a couple of years old, honestly. If you'll look at the head, how it's pointed, that's what lets me just reel it through stuff. It wedges everything out, the grass, the wood. And, you know, if it does hit wood, it goes up and over. You know, the weed guard is kind of a medium. It's not super thick, and that's what I like about it. I mean, you don't have to really lay into them way out there. And then the colors that we have is just good, natural looking colors. About following him. What a good swing. Finally a good one. I mean, as soon as it hit the water, just oof. Big old long male. It's been fun. That bite, second to a frog bite, is just addictive. So I hope you guys learned something. Appreciate you riding along.